Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined with Preston, the Sports Cheetah. We're going to talk about the games of the year, some of the ones that Preston bet early and moved the numbers. You're a mover and shaker, my man. Yeah. And what a ringing endorsement from a sportsbook director to tell you that when he sees you coming and respects your number, sees you moving on a game early, he's got to go back and look and see where he made a mistake.
He mentioned in some of the older videos we did that anyone there is pretty sharp is going to be betting into these. He would respect and move a half point or a point. But I did notice when I was actually first in line too when I had gotten there. He moved the first three that I bet, because you're capped at 3 times per line to bet 3 games. He moved them 1.5 points, and I noticed all the other ones after me were only moving 1 point, and so I do appreciate the extra respect he was giving, but at the same time, it probably got me a half point worse on some of these where I hit them 2 or 3 times in a row. So
yeah, you did. We'll talk about some of those games, but to give you, obviously you're integral part of Wager Talk, and one of the reasons that we went out and got you for Wager Talk is I saw the work you did with the Cheetah Guide, and I think that's where it starts at. They look, people, anybody that's connected in town, they know about the Cheetah Guide, and they've seen the work you do, and the homework you put into that publication. They know that you did your homework, you're prepared, and when they put a number, if you think the number's off, they're going to respect that. And I think that's why, success, it's a feather in your cap to have that kind of respect. But on the same token, you might have to start sending some people in with some sunglasses and to put some bets in for you, buddy. Let's start right off the bat. Big game for early in the season. How about Ohio State? They go to Oklahoma. You got the number at +9, and we're looking at a number down to 7 now. What'd you see there?
Yeah, we talked about it in another video earlier with Chris, and he kind of was just down on Ohio State in general. They lost, I think, 10 players to the NFL, and so they have a lot of new recruits, even though they're Urban Meyer recruits and they have a ton of talent. He kind of, I think, was playing the angle that they're going to be a little rusty early, or at least trying to find a rhythm. I trust more in Urban Meyer's system and Barrett coming back at quarterback, that they're not supposed to be over a touchdown to Oklahoma, even on the road. I had the number closer, I think, to like 4.5, so I took the 9. And I only hit it once. It was a game I could totally see Oklahoma winning by 10 or 14. It could happen. There wasn't as much value in that one and some of the others, but Ohio State was a team I thought he was a little short on. I bet him -3 against Wisconsin as well. And that game's on the road later on in the season. And so I'd be very surprised if both of those numbers were similar come day of the game.
Right. In that Ohio State-Wisconsin one that you bet at 3 did move to 4 right away. Another one that you hit, Baylor, -4.5 at Texas. That one moved to 6 right away. Texas is a team that, last year, a lot of young players, and they got a lot of people coming back. You're not as high on them making the next step, and this would be year 2 for the coach?
I think it's year 3 for him, actually. I think he's actually been there 2 years, and so people expect that he's going to be kind of finally making that leap. He has some of his recruits in. I just don't know if even if he had a great year coaching and the quarterback could do something this year where they've had a lot of issues, I just don't think they're that good from a straight power numbers perspective. I'm not really down on Texas. And in fact, last year I thought they were going to kind of finally have that bounce back, and they never really did. It could be this year, but I don't think we're only going to be 4.5 point dogs to Baylor, who's the best team in the conference next to Oklahoma, in probably top 6 to 7 power rated team in the whole country. So I had it at like 11.5, so I hit 4.5 and actually 6 as well on Baylor. I hit that one twice. Under a touchdown there was going to be a lot of value.
All right. Another one that you hit, Auburn +12 at Ole Miss, and that line's down to 10.5.
Yeah, one thing, and it's important I think for people to remember, and I've talked about this in some of the guides before, teams that got a ton of hype and then failed to meet expectations tend to get overlooked the following year. Last year is a great example. You had a team like North Carolina 2 years ago, got a ton of hype and bombed. And then last year North Carolina was a team that we were on them to win their ACC division at a big price. They're over in the season win total, even the ACC as a whole. They did great. Another example is Iowa last year was really good. The year before they got all the hype. So some of these teams that don't meet expectations, like Auburn would be one last year, that really just fell short. And now no one really seems to pay attention to Auburn. Them getting 12 points against Ole Miss, I thought, was really high. I had this more like 8 or 8.5, I forget which. But the idea is I think in general they're a team that's going to be improving. And immediately the power numbers everywhere are going to have to adjust on Auburn. Plus, I think it's 4 points high, even if I'm being conservative with Auburn. So I had to take the double digits.
All right, the next couple games that we're going to talk about, there are some really big moves here. You jumped on Notre Dame +1 versus Stanford. This line's already to Notre Dame -3.
Yeah, and I only bet it at +1 and -1. So that tells you that someone else had gone in there at least one more time and bet Notre Dame up from 2 or 2.5, whatever it was, and they moved it to 3. They're at home against the Stanford team that does have to replace Hogan at quarterback and some other pieces. I think total on defense, maybe only 4 or 5 returning starters, if I remember correctly. Notre Dame should have beat them last year on the road. It took a miracle for Stanford to win anyway. I think there's going to be a little revenge factor. Notre Dame's just going to be more experienced and I think ultimately the better team. Plus at home, and they were getting a point, or I bet it again at -1. So I expect it to be over a field goal when it really comes down to it. In a game that year to year when they've played always seems to kind of come down to the wire. So if I really wanted to, if Stanford does kind of blow me away for the first few weeks and I want to play back on 3.5, 4.5, whatever it is, the week of, that's another what's the advantage of doing these is you can always kind of play back and set yourself up for some middles if come middle of the season you don't like your position anymore. Yeah,
and one thing I want to let the viewers know that although this is technically a 4-point line move from +1 to -3, this is not like a 4-point line move if you had a game at 3 going to 7 or something. When you're going through the 1, the 0, and then 1 to the other side, up until you get to the field goal, you're still kind of in that same zone. You're picking the winner.
Yeah, it's unlikely it's going to land 2 or whatever. Yeah. And the first, he didn't even move to pick. He moved from from +1 to -1 originally, so he moved it 2 points. It also isn't going to be nearly as significant as a 4-point move would be the week of a game. Right. If you see a 4-point move in September, that's a big deal. Here it means someone bet it 3 times, which for only $1,000. So definitely there's a lot to take, a grain of salt, this and that.
In the last 2 games that you bet, we talked about the one on the other video, but BYU, you hit them twice. Now, once, obviously, Chris said in that he made a mistake on Utah State, but you hit BYU against Boise State as well. BYU +11.5 against Boise State. That one moved down to 8.
Yeah, and I only bet it at 11.5 and 10.5, and so he got some other action from BYU in that matchup specifically. He had mentioned on the video BYU does have a new coach because Bronco Mendenhall left for Virginia. They have a lot coming back though personnel-wise, and the new coach is Kalani Sitake. He's been there. He was the reason Utah's defense had been so good the last few years. He was kind of the brain behind their defense. He went with Gary Anderson to Oregon State last year, kind of because I think he was told, you deserve a head coaching job, and he actually thought maybe UNLV would be an option here. Colorado State was another one. He didn't get it, so then it was kind of weird and awkward at Utah, so he just had to kind of leave, but now he's getting his shot with BYU. He's a very, very good coach. I don't think there's going to be a huge drop-off from Bronco Mendenhall to him when it ultimately is said and done. I had this at 4.5, so I had to take 11.5 and 10.5 at Boise, a team they've actually historically played really well, even on the road. The other one, Utah State, really quick. I think he kind of compounded it because he said he was kind of down on BYU, which I disagree with. Then he also said he had messed something up with his Utah State number. So I got -1 and 2.5 and 3 and 4. And I have it 12.5, so I was planning on hitting it as much as I could till 6 or 7, or I ran out of money. So it worked out.
You did, as you said. You wish you'd have brought more money with you. You would have put you would have hit BYU a couple more times.
I would have hit him up to a touchdown, actually. Yeah. By the time I went home and went back that night with some more money to hit a couple week ones, it was at 7, and so someone else had bet it from 4 to 7, and now it's at 9 even. So.
All right, Preston, great stuff. Glad for sharing the information with our viewers, and obviously it doesn't help them because these numbers are already hit, but it does show them, the work that's involved in behind the scenes and what goes on here in Vegas, and you're there firing away. Great stuff. And guys, if you want to jump on board any handicapper this weekend at Wager Talk, weekend all access package every week, Thursday through Monday, $69 gets you pick your capper, you get all of their plays, all sports for $69, 5 big days. You can't beat it. Check it out, wagertalk.com. We'll be back with more.